Give yourself some grace. You're a human too. God, do you know how many times I need to hear that myself? Like, hey, you're a human too. It's okay. It's your first time living, right? Give yourself that grace.
I kind of agree. Like, if we can teach kids for almost 2 years using Google Classroom in a Chromebook, why can't we do it on snow days so that they don't have to go longer in the summer, so that they can get their full 10 weeks of vacation? I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I don't know if I would feel differently if I was a teacher, but that would be my preference.
Well, no, I completely agree with that too, right?
And there might be half the teachers that agree with that and half the teachers that aren't. There's a few states actually that have year-round schooling, and I've seen I follow some people on TikTok that are teachers that teach in that year-round schooling, and they love the schedule because they have more time off. They don't feel like they're spending so much time in September, like catching kids back up, because you don't use it, you lose it. And they have more frequently time off, so they don't feel like they're so burnt out. But they do get like 4 weeks off in the summer. Like, they do get like 4 weeks straight off. I think if I was a teacher, knowing myself, I would prefer more time off throughout the 12 months than a 10-week break in the summer. I would prefer that. I would prefer some long weekends, a Monday off, a Friday off, a week off here, like two full weeks off for Christmas. Like, I know myself, like, knowing that there was no school yesterday and today, I'm like, yes, no alarm. I still had to work. I still had to work today, still had to work yesterday, but I didn't have to wake up at 4:45 to an alarm. Like, I could get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, that makes a huge difference for me mentally. So
I agree with everything you said, right? And if I was a teacher, absolutely. As a parent, yes. As a parent to my child, okay? He loves to learn. There's no shut off, right? And like, he's not in front of video games all the time. He's not like, there's not a dopamine fucking loop constantly, right? I don't like it. His little body can't handle all that adrenaline, man. So we do things all throughout, especially because the past couple of years, like, I haven't been able to give him the experiences. It doesn't mean that I can't be like, hey, let's pull up, there's plenty of, like, I love some of the family vloggers because they go on these experiences, but then I can be like, hey, look, let's do this and, like, let's learn about it over here. So it's our little own experience, and I'm not saying like that it's always going to be like that, but we all go through seasons of no's, it just is how it is. It's life, right? So for us, that's better for him because, like, the summer stuff, there's so much anxiety that kicks in July for in a late August, September start. There's so much, it's like, and I hate that. And I remember being a kid because I didn't go to school all year round, but I remember being the same way. I remember asking my dad, like, why can't I go all year? Granted, school was my safe place at that time too, but, like, why is this? But I was always that one that wanted to, like, I love to read and do all of this stuff. When it came to math, I didn't care about that shit. I didn't have to have that at all, in my opinion. But, like, it is what it is. But I completely agree with you. I think it gives a better work-life balance for all parties involved because the kids aren't so, let's hit the ground running and go for X amount of weeks, and then you get this amount of break and then this amount of break. And then, like, and I hated the school days, or I hated snow days when I was a little kid. And I've seen this with him too. He gets excited after he gets that, like, wait a second, my routine's different.
Yeah.
Hold on. You know, it's almost like a mini panic attack. And I remember that too. So I completely agree with that. You know, I think all around, I think it's better. You know, I'm not saying like breaks aren't a good thing, because obviously we all need them. You know, I'm one for mental health days, you know, but like you said, if we lose it, or if we don't use it, we lose it. You know, well, what is this cycle? You know what I mean? It just feels like it's like go, 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 burn, or like I feel like we just give it the best we can with the gas for a solid exit. How many months are they even in school at a time?
9 months.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
September to June for most.
Yeah.
You know, end of August, you know, beginning of June kind of thing. So just roughly September to June.
Yeah. Like I feel like we're giving on our gas. Like it's just
like I think Florida goes August to May, but you know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's 9 months.
Yeah. But it's like, you know what I mean? Though it's like pedal to the metal for 9 months and then off for 3 or 2. You know?
And there's a lot of families that can't afford camp. There's a lot of families that can't afford daycare for like, you know, the 10 weeks. You know, it's not like it was, you know, a couple hundred years ago where the mom stayed home and the dad did, you know, brought the money in or whatever. Like it's not, for the most part, it's not like that anymore for families, because for the most part, people need dual income.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
But there's no, like, with everything, there's no one best way. There's no one size fits it all to life. There really isn't. You know, I mean, if I would be able to prescribe my version of what I think the best optimum life would be for people, I would prescribe everyone to live on multiple acres of land, not in big cities, not in big, you know, cement buildings, all that stuff. I would prescribe everyone to have not, you know, 100 acres or whatever, but at least like 2 acres of land, right? You choose the size of your house. If you have 5 kids, you have a house that has 5 bedrooms. You have no kids, you have a house that has 1 or 2 bedrooms, right? Like you decide that, with the ability to expand if you decide to have kids. And I would prescribe people to all grow their own food, right? I would prescribe for people to have, you know, mandatory vacations, the ability to financially secure themselves in life, like teach them that financial education, you know, from early on, so that they understand the importance of saving and investing and, you know, how money grows for you and like all that stuff. Like that would be my prescription essentially for like a newborn. That would be, because it can't, life, I understand people find value and people find worth in their profession, but that shouldn't be, because, and I can't speak for everyone, but the majority of people that I've worked with personally that are quote unquote workaholics are that way because they haven't found personal satisfaction. And for many different reasons why they haven't found personal satisfaction, you know, like whether it be stuff that they went through in early childhood or during the high school years, college years, or whatever. But common denominator is at some point in time, their hard work, whether it was through sports in school, a job in school, combination of both, whatever, mowing their neighbor's lawn, they got that positive feedback and they were like, oh, my hard work makes me feel this way. So then that's, you know, that's the trajectory that, you know, some, can't say all, some go in life. So.
Oh, I completely agree with that. And, you know, I don't think I would change much of that prescription at all, you know, because I think self-sufficiency with raw material, right? Not man-made, raw. I think that gives you that piece of personal satisfaction.
Yeah.
That you can grow from. And like, hands down, that has been the sourdough bread for me. You know, like raw ingredient and my two hands. You know, same with like Colleen. I have kept an aloe vera plant alive for over a year now. Like, and I understand it's a freaking succulent, but still, okay. I forget to water the damn thing at months.
I've killed every aloe vera I've ever bought.
I don't feel bad anymore. Okay, I killed all the other plants I planted in the spring on my balcony. You know, like even the ones that were already freaking in pots that planted or that had the plant already. I killed them. I don't know what I did wrong, but I killed them. You know, but I've kept that thing alive. You know, I'm like, yeah, you know. So it's one of those things like getting back, like, oh, I'm gonna go a little philosophical, a little bit of woo, but it's fine. Like, this is why I think it makes me so sad to hear so many people say what they say about women in religion, because what is the raw material? You know, everything that you mentioned inside of that is the earth, right? What do we call that? Mother Earth. You know, like we forget that we have to have a mixture of both of both, you know, the feminine and the masculine, right? Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that, like referring to what you said, you know, that prescription, you know, how many of us skipped that personal satisfaction and got it with the work, or got it with, there's so many other things that could be, well, not really, right? Because anything else is work, because you're giving your energy, whether it's a manual labor job, mowing a lawn, caregiving with your elderly neighbor, you know, like it's all work, it's all effort, you know, like it's just crazy to me that we forget so much of that, you know, and then we get to those points where we're like, wait a second, you know, for most of us, you know, maybe it's parenthood, because then you do rely on that nurture, right?
Yeah.
That feminine energy. You have to rely on that because you have to nurture and care for a tiny human, you know? Well, then a lot of people are like, wait a second, how do I do that if I don't have that? You know, I got that from this. Well, I can't do that with this, you know? You can't tell I can't tell my almost 7-year-old, you know, hey, do this, this, and this, and we can do this. You know, it doesn't work like that. They can't earn that. You know, they don't understand. Right. So it's like, it's crazy. And I love how you laid that out, because it just like panned it out for me. Because I feel like so many of us are sitting in that boat right now, you know, whether it's parenthood, whether it's, you know, you've built yourself up the CEO ladder, and or not, maybe not even CEO ladder, corporate ladder, right? And you're like, fuck. Now you gag every time you get ready in the morning because you're like, I can't do this anymore. You know? Like, it's one of the, it's crazy how you can see it through every lens. Well, no, I can't see it through every lens, but like a lot of the employee lens, the corporate lens, the entrepreneur lens, parent lens, like it's just crazy, you know?
I mean, I think, you know, they're progressive has helped in the way of, we have better longevity. We don't die from simple like tetanus. We don't die from, for the most part, right? Like,
right.
we don't die from the simple things that were killing people a couple hundred years ago, right? Like, so the progression of healthier living, cleaner water, like, better food storage, like all that stuff is better.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's also costing us
So much.
our health. It's costing us, so then it's creating the medical model. So then it's, you know what I mean? Like, so it's created good things, and then it's created a slew of not so great things also. Now, yeah, we build this thing, and, I don't think microwave meals and McDonald's is progression. I think it's terrible, like all the made up food attitude. Not to say, I mean, I don't eat McDonald's, but I've eaten Burger King and Wendy's in my life, right? But that convenience, like that convenience versus going out and growing your cucumbers and bringing them in and slicing them up and making pickles and, like canning and like all of that stuff. And granted, I don't do hardly any of that. I don't have the space, like the yard space to have a garden and have animals and all that stuff. And certainly if I was growing my own animals for food, I would not be butchering them myself. I would be paying someone to do that. I am not breaking a chicken's neck and plucking out their fat. It's just not going to happen. I'm not doing it. If I had to do it to survive, you bet your ass I would do it. But if I could pay someone to do that and have nice, fresh, that would be what I would be doing. Goats, chickens, all that stuff. But there's so many benefits to progression, and then so many not so great benefits. And I think if I look at it, there's more not so great benefits than there are benefits.
I completely agree.
And, going back to how we started this, talking about schooling, I think the traditional model here in the United States, the traditional model of education works for some. It doesn't work for all. And a lot of the problems start at home, where kids are they're not loved, they're not taken care of. They're not provided that emotional nurturing for that, because at the end of the day, it's all energy, right? It's all energy. It's all balance. So if, when I was working more in community, people's homes and working with more kids, I would have like school social workers and teachers and say like, well, he or she just can't blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what's it like at home? Like you can't punish a child for coming in with their homework not done when they don't even know if they're going to eat dinner at home. The last thing on most of those poor kids' minds is going to be to do their math sheet. Like, and that's like a greater level of understanding I wish everyone would have is, and I saw this when I worked as a medical social worker, people, we have no choice but to, unless we're educated and exposed, we have no choice but to think everybody lives like us. So if you grow up in a household where both parents have substance use and they're fighting to maintain jobs and your heat's getting shut off and you don't have hot water because your hot water tank broke and you have to boil water just to take a basic bath to clean your important parts. And yeah, your hair might get done once a week and you don't even know how you're going to get clean because your parents don't buy soap. And you can't expect kids to be paying attention in school and doing their best when their bellies aren't full, their clothes don't fit, they're freezing at night, parents are screaming and yelling if they're home. Like
you have no idea when the last time they were told, hey, I love you, and given a freaking hug,
Exactly. But if you're someone who comes from a home where your heat is always on, you have two loving, kind parents who love each other, who love you, love your siblings if you have siblings, you're provided that stability. There's a snack for you when you get home. There's a, hey, how was your day? Let's hang up your coat. Here's your clean pajamas. Here's your nice warm bed, right? Like, not everybody grows up with that. But when you grow up with that and you're in that social circle of other people who grew up like that, you think everyone grew up like that. But if you grow up in my first picture, you think everyone grew up like that because all your friends did. All your friends came from basically the same household. One parent, two parents, Aunt Joey coming in drunk, stumbling, doing God only knows what to, whoever. Like, everyone did grow up like that. And as kids, you banded together, you stole from the corner convenience store, you split a Twinkie, right? Like, you think that that's how the world runs because that's how you were exposed. And it's not until a lot of these kids go into school where they have someone from the school notice and be like, hey, did you notice that Colleen has worn that same outfit all week? Did you notice that she walks to school and doesn't even have on a winter coat or hat and gloves? Or like, did you notice? Did you notice? And I think that level of awareness is getting better. It's getting better, but I don't even know why I went off on that tangent, but
no, I think I love it. I think that's a perfect direction. I mean, I've seen this a couple times on TikTok, my shaker plate daily scroll time, where it's, I was raised by parents who said, well, they're just jealous, versus me being the parent who, no, you don't know how it is at their home, and that is something, because even last year, I mean, no, preschool, like there were things like, Waylon was like, Mom, why is it so different and I'm like, honey, like, and I think the level of awareness that it takes to be able to say, well, listen, it's not that they're not loved, it's just different, right? So make sure that you be the person to make them smile. You be the person, like being able to tell your child, plus like, even if and I do agree with you, I think that level of awareness is getting better. I have to remember that it's not everywhere, right? But it is getting better, and I think it's also getting better with like parents, like myself. I'll be the first one to admit I'm not the perfect parent, but I am the first parent that will sit there and be like, you know what? But I'm so sorry that Mom just yelled like that because that was not appropriate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We can be mad, but we can't be mean. I tell you that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm the first parent to correct my own action. I'm the first parent to stop and say, wait a second, let's look at the whole situation and not just the pieces. So like I think the more parents, and I know I'm not the only one that does that, but I think the more that can happen, like I think the better we can work to make the outside the school system even better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think both would work better together, because then maybe that opens up other opportunities, because I do agree with you. The traditional one-way method doesn't work for all. And we need to stop trying to fit a one-size-fits-all for everybody. I think that would then open up the doors to like, hey, how's this work? Can we do this? What about, you know what I mean? Right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And like, why do, I've had a problem with the education system since I was a student. And it's the same, me being the age that I am now, it's still the same educational model. Why do kids have to take history for 12 years and then get into college and take more history?
Yeah.
But like, what is the point? What is the point? I don't understand what the point is of that. In many other different subjects. I believe in math and I do believe in English. I believe in knowing how to write because we're always going to have to write. to read, to comprehend. I believe in all math and English, those two core subjects. I completely believe in. But all the other BS subjects, like, why? Why are we not teaching kids finance? Why are we not teaching them, like, why are we not having kids enter into high school and have some sort of, especially in today's day and age, where we have apps and someone can create a program. Somebody could create a simulated program where freshmen get, I don't know, get a salary based on, hey, well, what do you want to do for work? Oh, I want to be a firefighter. Okay. Well, the average firefighter right now makes X a year. So here's your salary. Here's your housing cost. Here's all that stuff. Here's your, they're going to match 3% and 401k, blah, 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 right? So every school year for 4 years, they have all that stuff. They have a savings. They have, fun money, like I like to call it when I work with people at budgeting. They have their vacation fund. They have their retirement. So then the program simulates the stock market and what compounding would be after 4 years, right? Granted, it's not going to be as much as it was after 30 years, but it gives them, it gives them comfortability picking out stock, seeing the fluctuations. And I mean, there is somebody out there that could build this for school systems. And how valuable would that be for kids across coast to coast?
Well, and God,
that one thing would change so much. That one thing.
I think it would even do more than the kids, though. Think about this, right? Your kids come home, and whether you ask them about their day or not, okay, whether you care or you don't, okay, I don't know how else to say it. I don't mean that in a heartful or a heartless way, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
Your kid's excited about something, or maybe they're not. Maybe they don't understand why they have to do this. They're going to come and tell you. Imagine what that could do for the parents, because maybe they're like, wait, hold on. What is that? You could be educating so many different people, not to mention the kid or the families that have younger generations.
Yep.
Because then it's a whole thing. I fucking love that. And I agree. I agree with you, because Colleen, what I've went through the last year, right? I didn't know any of that. And I was asking all of the right questions, but I couldn't, I only had one level. And I'm not upset with my parents about that. They didn't ask. They didn't know. They didn't know to ask, and then maybe they did, but maybe they didn't know what to ask. I can't fault them for not knowing, but I'm not going to sit there and do the same fucking thing. I'm going to ask, and I'm going to reach out and I still email the lawyer. Hey, I have this question, because I'm allowed to, and he's going to tell me what I need to know.
Yes.
It just is what it is. It's one of those things that I think that there's so many things that we could do different. I agree with you. I don't know why we took home ec out, because we're always going to have to cook. We're always going to have to cook.
We took it out so fast food chains and restaurants could flourish, because now we're taking a skill away from people and we're making them dependent, just like every other system.
That makes sense. Yeah, because it not only fuels the healthcare system, yeah. I mean,
just like when cigarettes became a really big thing, they were sold as classy, women and house dresses with their pointy boobs, oh, look at me, because bras were terrible back then and everyone had cone boobs. But think of the change that would come. Think of all the things that both sides fight over. Think of the change that would come with financial literacy. we would not need to have a lot of these government programs because people would be financially literate. People would have the confidence, they would have the know-how that they can do this, whether it's $5 a week, $10 a week, $100 a week, whatever it comes down to, and that would be, I mean, of course it would just completely change everything.
Change the world.
You know what I mean? Like, but just think of it like on like that deeper of a level, how everything would change. We wouldn't really need to have a lot of politicians because we as a people would be pretty self-sufficient.
Yep. And that's what's so scary.
Well, that's
why they want it so dependent.
It would never be allowed.
Oh God.
It's a dependent. I can't speak for other countries. I can only speak for the one I live in. It's a dependent. We're creating. It's similar to parents who do that to their kids that, tie their shoes until they're 15 years old and, walk their kids into driver's ed when they're 16. Like I don't know. Like I like, what are we doing?
I know.
Like doing our kids' laundry for them when they're old enough to learn how to run the machine themselves. When we're, like all the things, right? And I certainly understand parents being like, well, I want better for my kids. I completely understand that personally, because at the end of the day, I can be extremely proud that I gave my kids the gift of their childhood. They did not have to be adults at 11 years old. They did not have to shoulder adult responsibilities. Have I expected them to do things age appropriate and developmentally? Yes. Did they have chores when they were little? No, they didn't. They didn't have chores. What they had was, we're going to work collaboratively. So if I ask you to put your shoes away, I expect you to put your shoes away when I ask you, because my shoes are put away. When I ask you to put your dish in the sink, I expect you to put your dish in the sink because that's where I put my dish. When you're tall enough to do other things, I expect when I ask you to do it, that you do it. I'm not expecting you to do it every day. I probably am not even expecting you to do it every week. But when I ask you, I expect teamwork. And that's how it worked for me. And that's what I've done. And, now that I have kids the ages that they are, it's the three of us, we do split the chores. I picked 3 chores and we rotate every week. We all have a different chore. All 3 of us. One week, someone has an easy chore because it's the trash. The other week, someone has the first floor. The other week, someone has the bathrooms. And then everything else we just do on our own.
Yep.
Our bedrooms, you know what I mean? Like, I come home from food shopping and I'm like, hey, I need some help with the groceries. They're both shoes on and out there emptying the car, right? Help me put them away. Like, because that's what worked for me. And I'm not saying that chores for younger kids isn't appropriate. If it's appropriate for your family, that's what's appropriate. I just chose the collaborative method,
yep.
Which I guess you could say is kind of, but I didn't have like, my 8-year-old wasn't responsible for washing the kitchen floor. You know what I mean? Were they responsible for cleaning up if they made a mess? Yes. So, but
no, I want to piggyback on what you just said, especially for the parent viewers that we have watching this. That has changed the game for us. Okay. Like, I finally figured it out, Colleen. Like, for months, right? I was like, how did you say to say this again? Because it's all about that. It is all about it.
It's like, not what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. And I'm not talking about tonnage. It's wordage, right?
Yeah.
I mean, tone matters. Tone absolutely matters, but it's how you word it. Because, like, I'll put me on the chopping block, like, I could not for the life of me get my son, who is 6 to almost 7, to do anything. Couldn't get him to make his bed, brush his teeth, take a shower. It was like a fight with everything. I'm like, what do I do?
Because those are adult things that he has no interest in doing.
Exactly.
So how do you find his interest?
So I played with Colleen's, and it took so much time, guys. Like, look, like we've been doing this since last summer, right? Probably before then, Colleen. I think it was before then I started asking these questions to you. You know, and we finally just got it to where, hey, can you go make your bed while mom goes makes hers, because you know this is what we have to do, and then I'll meet you in the kitchen and we'll grab your chocolate milk. You know, done. Hey,
Yep.
I'm gonna go brush my teeth. You're gonna brush yours, and when you're done, we're gonna share. We're gonna grab some mouthwash together. Done. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing when, because then they're like, oh, I can play. Okay, take it away from her. Thank you. Just set it on the counter, honey. Thank you. Sorry, he took the squeaker away from the dog. But you know what I mean? Like, for the longest time, the simplest little things, right? And it started to worry me, because I'm like, okay, if I can't get him to understand, like, how to do the small things, the everyday things, putting shoes up, putting your clothes up, you know, all of that stuff. There for a while, I was, screw the damn toys, I'll pick my own battle, right? Screw his room. If it's a mess, I'll shut it. You know what I mean? Like, pick and choose your own battles, right? Because I didn't have the energy to go in there and clean it up. I just didn't, you know? So, but when it finally got to that point of like, wait a second, there's got to be a way to do this. And then the other thing, like Colleen said, like the adult tasks, right? You can't say, hey, go clean your room, because he's going to look at that thing like, oh my God, there's so much in here. You know what I mean? Like, hey, can you pick up the 3 books that are on your floor in your closet, put them on your bookshelf, and then put the lid on your Legos and come back and see me? Like, it's just amazing, the change in that. You know, I think it really goes to show too, like, once I started to realize that, then I was able to be like, wait a second. We're asking these children to sit here and, you know, be prim and proper and all this stuff, and sit and don't move and be quiet and all this stuff. Like, how is he supposed to do this? How are these children supposed to do this? Especially the ones that don't you know, I was that kid. I was the first kid that Colleen, you know, came from. I came from, well, for half of it, right? I mean, when my mom was alive, like, everything was, I had 2 loving parents, you know, but after she passed, like, things were just, it was hell on wheels at times, you know, and it just is what it is, right? Like, coming from that, like, and now I'm looking at it like, what are we doing? You know, why are we asking so much of them? You know, why are we asking so much of them? Like, it's insane. And maybe, I know, I totally understand, because I'm seeing it now from like both different sides. Like, before I was like, well, they got to be able to do this stuff, because one day they're going to have to. But they don't have to know it all. They don't have to do it all right now. They shouldn't have to carry all that extra weight.
Yeah.
That's not their jobs, you know? And now, like, since we started to do that, Colleen, like, I couldn't do a simple task on my own anyway, but now, like, it's been so much different. Like, in the kitchen, when he wants to help me, it's not a fight over, like, who does what. It's, hey, help me with this. You know what I mean? So then, if it comes to egg cracking, we do it together and it's not a total mess. Or if it goes to, like, dumping powder or flour and stuff in there, it's not a total mess. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's a game changer on so many different levels for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it, you know, I had the fortunate and unfortunate life experience. You know, I started babysitting at a very young age, was responsible for kids at a very young age, many kids. So, and it always just came naturally to me. I was a nanny for 10 years, you know, prior to having kids, and for many years prior to having kids. But, you know, so I had that, I knew what worked and I knew what didn't work. And I professionally have worked with kids in many different settings, many different diagnoses, many different everything. And I can tell you, given taking the ABA and kids with like different autism diagnoses and stuff, taking those more extreme situations off the table. Positive reinforcement works for every single human being, not just every single child. And it starts with the day they're born.
Yep.
It really does. Like if we to come like full circle on our conversation today, like if we as parents are not stressed out, if we don't feel the need to splinter ourselves into 85 different directions, if we don't feel the need to keep up with everybody else in our circle for whatever is going on, and if we're disconnected, because right now we're in the electronic leash phase of our years, so to speak, if we don't feel the need to be connected to what everyone around us is doing, what the next best thing is, or that whole consumerism, which is not new to social media. I remember being a kid and my friends, I personally never cared about that stuff, but I remember my friends excited for the next teen magazine to come out, to what's the new sneakers, what's the new fad, what's the new this, right? I never cared about any of that stuff. So and I don't care about it still. I appreciate that people do, but I never did. So if we took all of that out, and if we just took financial literacy, love, compassion, kindness, a balance of quiet and fun life, and active parenting, the world would be beautiful.
I agree wholeheartedly. And it has to start, and look, I'm just going to say it. It's got to start with the one watching this. It can't start with the little ones or the world around you. It's got to start with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I see it almost on a daily basis now, and I see it in myself from the past about what you just said. How many times have all of us told our children or someone, why do you care so much about what other people think? But then the moment, like I can see myself doing it right now, like at our kitchen table. Why do you care so much about what your class thinks? Who cares? Just be you. And then, oh fuck, I can't post that. Because, right? Like your kids are gonna, like, we are obviously our children's biggest teachers, right? Monkey see, monkey do. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
And the more that you can dive deeper inside of you and become that self-sufficient, whether it's you live on 2 acres, you grow your own food, you work for yourself, it doesn't matter what level or what aspect of self-sufficiency you have, right? In my personal opinion, when you control what happens up here and what happens in here, that's ultimate self-sufficiency, because you're not reacting on the world around you, you're reacting in here.
Yep.
Right. So no matter what aspect that is, like, remember that it's got to start here. You can't wait for the next person, the next big influencer, the next YouTube star, you can't wait on that. Right. And I'm not talking about big movements either. Just small, subtle things that you notice. Maybe you yell at your kid. Maybe you snap at your spouse. Maybe you get a little frustrated and throw a little temper tantrum of your own, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Right? You noticed it. Don't guilt yourself because you did it. Notice it. Why did it happen? Right?
Yep.
The deeper you go there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Colleen.
No, I was going to say, you were saying, I said, and make the changes.
Yep.
Notice what happened, talk about it, and make the changes.
Yep. The deeper you go there, that's where you find those changes.
Yep.
And it's not going to happen automatically. Give yourself some grace. You're a human too. God, do you know how many times I needed to hear that myself? Like, hey, you're a human too. It's okay. it's your first time living, right? Give yourself that grace, but also give yourself enough of, I don't want to say discipline. Nah, it might work. Give yourself enough discipline to hold yourself accountable to do that work. Find that balance there and then watch what happens throughout the different layers of your life. Because once you find that balance within yourself, you're then able to find the balances for the other places.